Welcome back to Behind the Songs with Intense Reality. And we're breaking down all the stuff that's on our new album, Road Trip, song by song. So we've talked about a good chunk of the album so far. This week we're talking about the song This Town Needs a Hero, which is another huge personal favorite of mine from our new album, and is some really cool territory for us to kind of try out and try to get into.
Yep, an easycore song, so a different genre, kind of down-tuned, heavy, but major sound. Kind of new genre.
Kind of just a basically heavily influenced by 4 Years Strong.
It's cool to do a new sound and to try something different like this, and to at least get into some heavier tones. And good for Jesse capturing those high-gain tones. Loving it.
Yeah. I was over at Taylor's at one point, and you had like a bank of like a number of different riffs and a number of different ideas that you've been working on.
Oh yeah.
And if I remember...
Riff salad. Here you go, man. What do you like?
Yeah. And
I think we all secretly have something like that, like a stash of just riffs or whatever.
You know, you got your ideas.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure that you had both a major and minor key version of this riff. But I remember it was called, and I don't know why, but it was called Park Light. And we were just listening to different demos on your computer. And I heard the major key version of what you had, and I was immediately so inspired by it that I asked you to just send me a copy of just like the intro riff itself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember that now, actually.
Yeah, and then...
as soon as you showed Michael something major and happy sounding, he was like, this is good.
But it was the way that you were doing it. It was the way that you were doing it that I thought was really unique and really cool. And it's like, well, that's a bit more niche. And I'm drawn to stuff that takes us away from like what you would stereotypically expect us to do. Like, I love those Intense Reality classics, but I also like the ones like this that kind of like push it forward into like some different territory. And so yeah, I think you sent me kind of what that riff was. I tried a little bit to like replicate it or like figure it out on my end, just so that I could like make like a concept demo of it, kind of. And then we kind of worked on an instrumental of it first. The lyrics took a while, but we worked on an instrumental of it first, brought it to practice, tried to figure out like how could we like represent this on drums, how could we get some double kick in on the drums. Mm-hmm. Because if you listen to any 4 Years Strong or like the Newfound Glory that inspired 4 Years Strong, or like anything within that genre or any core genre, there's lots of double kick, right? And so we wanted to make sure to try to bring that forward in this one. And we haven't always leaned as heavily on the double kick as we could have been, but this is one where I remember pushing Colton to do double kick stuff on it.
You wanted some double action.
Yes. It's heavy, but in a kind of a major key kind of way. It's got kind of like the chugs on it. It's got essentially like a big fat breakdown at the very end.
I like the chorus too. Like, it starts on B minor, you're like starting on a different chord. Some of these choruses start on the chord that it's in, like the key. So that's just a cool extra thing. I like the background vocals that I do there.
Yeah, they're really cool too.
That's fun coming up with those.
Yeah, and then by the end we just started jamming on like this like really 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 heavy.
There's a lot of
endings.
There was actually quite the snare fill at the end, if I remember correctly.
Oh yeah, no, it's a huge.
I honestly like the finish of it because it just has that big build up and it just explodes at the end. So
yeah,
I think it's pretty cool.
It's all about the feel and about the energy and the like. You know, we've had lots of practices where we just nail it. Yes, like that just feels. That feels so great. And there were also opportunities on this song for me to try out just layer in a couple extra little guitar riffs too. I mean, obviously Taylor does the intro and like most of the lead stuff, but there's some parts where like I was able to throw in some guitar lines myself too, and that always feels great. So we knew like what we kind of wanted for music, and I think musically it came together arguably just a little bit easier than lyrically. Lyrically, this one took a little bit. Colton had joined the band, and you were talking about the like state of like the music scene in Red Deer, and Colton literally said out loud at one point, "This town needs a hero."
I was reading an article. I don't know if kids do this nowadays, but I was reading in the paper. We have this thing called newspaper.
Okay, boomer.
Yes. All right. So I'm literally flipping through this, and where it had this article of just basically Red Deer music. Whatever it was, and it was just all these bands wanting to play at Bose Barn Grill, a bunch of other local places around, and there was like next to nothing. And I'm like, you have all these venues and whatnot, but like no bands to fill them out. And I'm like, good God, this town needs a hero. He's taking notes over here mentally, and he's like,
I like that line.
I'm gonna write that down. It's a nice little tagline there.
It is. It's a great tagline.
And he literally just took that right out of my mouth and threw it on as a title, and what you got now is what you got. So
it's funny because like that ended up. That was such a cool line, and I knew that it could like feel something like almost kind of heroic and nice and like uplifting and inspiring in the context of a song like this. So that connection established itself quite well, but then it was, for a while it had to be like, okay, well, like a hero in what way, or rise to like what occasion, right? Because I knew that it had to have a bit more substance than just that, or just talking about the music scene. So it actually ends up kind of talking about like social responsibility and kind of like responsibility to society, about like our role in society, our responsibilities around like dealing with like social issues, dealing with like what we had to deal with during the pandemic, dealing with all that, and the fact that like regardless of what it was, like we as a society had to like come together to like face an issue, because if we continue being divided and arguing with each other over everything, we're never gonna fucking get anywhere. Oh, you have a different opinion than me, we're instantly enemies, and there's no middle ground. It's at one extreme or this other extreme versus each other all the time. I hate that so much. And so, like, I don't know. So that's what This Town Needs a Hero ended up like having kind of a bigger meaning in that way too. But it started as just like a comment on the music scene, but to like fill it out into a full-length song, I kind of ended up taking it that way. And like a little bit of like the denial is touched on in the chorus too, right? Like, oh yeah, they're saying there's clear skies all around, you know, like everything's fine. But I see the clouds forming now, right? Storm is arriving. So yeah,
we can all be our own hero.
Yes, haha. Anyway, so yeah, it's just my favorite song for so many different reasons. Lyrically, musically, I like the feel of it. I can't believe that we had not played it live until the album release show, but after like we did that album release show, I want to play the song live all the time.
People were up and dancing for this one. It was a high energy one.
Yeah, it was cool. It was awesome. It felt so good. It was really fun to work on in the studio. It was a bit trickier, right? Because, you know, we're kind of touching on some different genre territory, but I love that we pushed the envelope on this one, and I love that we
You were pushing your amp on this one too in the studio. We had to turn it down.
Oh, yeah.
I remember on this one, we were like, what does that sound? Like, oh, it's Michael's amp. We cranked it too hard.
Oh, shoot. Well, hopefully y'all dig it out there in internet land. Yeah, sub to us on YouTube if you want to see the rest of the video series. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram and all the socials. Catch us at a show and you might see us play this one live. And till next week, have a good rest of your week, and we'll see you in the next video.